Hey, everybody, welcome back to this live episode of Think Mindset with Randy Denha and myself. We're looking forward to talking with Brian Scanlon. Brian is the owner of Posted Social and director of M&A and Global Source Infrastructure Partners. Brian, we're looking forward to talking social scalability, and a little bit of mergers and acquisitions, right?
Awesome. Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
Build it, scale it, sell it, right?
That's the model, right?
Scanlon.
Yeah.
With Scanlon. Oh, that's the tagline.
I get the essence. That's right.
Yeah, right. So
I might steal that.
Yeah. Wow. Randy already trademarked it. He's
I will assign it to you, Brian. It's all yours.
Okay.
Right, and we have proof that Randy came up with it on
That's right.
video. Right. Well, Brian, we appreciate you taking time. Let's talk a little bit about. Let's go back for a minute. Right. To date, you founded 3 companies and sold your first social media agency 4 years after graduating Babson College.
Yeah.
I also started an internet company and sold it a few years after I graduated college back in 1995. So
you made a lot more than I did.
So, well, we can talk about that. But let's talk about, let's just go back for a minute, right? And talk about some of the fundamental things you learned along the way, building companies, and how you have to look at building a company differently today.
Yeah. I mean, that's an awesome question. So, I think the first thing is, I think it's been made like, it's kind of trendy now to say that you're an entrepreneur and you have a company and you started a business. And, I think when I was in college, I had a professor say that you're not an entrepreneur until you create jobs for other people, right? So if you're just running a business on your own, then you're a freelancer, more or less. If you create jobs for other people, now you're a true entrepreneur. And I thought that true for many years until recently, seeing people that are only sustaining business for themselves, that's still entrepreneurial, right? And I think, when you start a company, you have to understand that being entrepreneurial isn't all sunshine and rainbows, right? In fact, it's like a lot of the opposite. There's a lot more challenges, a lot more losses than wins. And, I think kind of coming out of college with an athletics background helped me realize like, we're going to get a couple bumps along the way here. And it's kind of how you work through those setbacks will determine the future of your business. I think people think it's, I can start a company because I watch a lot of Shark Tank and, there's a lot more to it than that. And we see that on the M&A side. We see that on, the investment side. And I also see that with the clients we work with on the social media side. But most of it is just kind of having the stones to do it and go out on your own, whether it's, starting as a freelancer or getting a multi-million-dollar investment in a seed round and starting a big company. It's really having the willingness to bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Brian, you said something that sparked the following is that, especially in entrepreneurship and with your diverse background, you get, especially on your own, venturing out, you get a lot more no's than yeses. And you got to be willing to take those punches and to continue, with that grit and that perseverance to get to the yes. But when you do, it's very sweet. So tell me about your mindset, in the infancy of each of these businesses and, what you learned along the way that you refined on the next go around to make it easier to take that punch, to get to that yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of it is just not taking it personally. In getting through those no's is understanding like, hey, this is probably a financial decision for whoever you're trying to pitch your business to. If you're trying to go out and get new clients, right? Most of the time it doesn't come down to a personal thing. It's, hey, can we afford it? Do these people have a good track record? So when you start taking the no's personally and you get, deterred by that early on, it's going to be a short-lived career for you. The no's come fast and furious, and they come when you're least expecting it, but the yeses come when you're least expecting it as well. And I was lucky to, have a couple big successes along the way, but also in a position, not long ago, not many years ago, where I was like, hey, I think I might have to get a regular job. Like this isn't really working out. We built and sold something. We're trying new things along the way. Yeah, it's okay, but hey, benefits would be nice for this and a 401k and all this stuff and, the cushy job. And then I just realized I can't work for anybody. Like I just can't do it. Like I was interviewing with a kid who's asking me about, what are my KPIs at my current company? And it's like, we either close the deal or we don't, man. Like that's the KPI is I win or I lose. And I don't even really know what a KPI was when he asked me,
I don't know.
performance indicator, whatever that means. So I'm like, hey, we have a lot of sales. We're doing great, So I think, what you learn is don't take things personally. And really, you have to work through those no's. And the other thing is, picking partners wisely, right? Picking who you're going to rely on to grow your business with is so important. I've been very lucky to have, some key people kind of take me under their wing. And when I didn't really deserve it, like just a young guy saying, hey, come work with me. We'll give you a shot. And that paid off tremendously. But I also entered into a couple deals where I stepped back and said, wait a minute, this isn't what I signed up for. And I think being able to recognize that you need somebody to help you with this and finding that right person when you do, it's a lot of great things happen.
I love it. I think I agree with everything you just talked about. I want to talk about social media. You have you're the CEO of Posted Social. It's a full service digital marketing agency. You specialize in social media advertising. And so, and as Randy was saying about mindset, I want to dive also into the mindset of this. To me, it takes 3 years to be an overnight success. And the mindset of social, sometimes people is very, short, right? If it doesn't go viral, it doesn't work. If I beta tested it for a week and it doesn't work. So what's the mindset of how long you need to give something on social to work? And what is the continuum of social that people need to hop on board and commit to?
Yeah. So when I first started doing it in 2008, Snapchat, Instagram, this stuff wasn't even around, right? And Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn were evolving rapidly, like tremendously. So in 2008, it was you post organically on your company page, you interact with your fans, you measure your performance in likes and follows and those vanity metrics. Now it's almost impossible to grow an organic following without some mega influence behind it. Like, going viral for some kind of good reason. Most of the reasons people go viral now are for bad reasons, but nobody goes viral anymore because the product is fantastic and everybody needs to have it. So it's turned into the organic stuff is great and necessary, but the paid advertising is where you're going to see true results. Right? We have clients that we work with that do not post on their Facebook or Instagram, but we drive 6 figures in revenue through advertising through Facebook and Instagram, just using that vehicle to drive people to their website and convert sales. Same with some B2B companies. So, now from an advertising perspective on social media, there's a reason these companies are worth the zillions of dollars they are. It's because it works, right? Like the advertising works. So if you have a good product and you have good content, then it becomes finding the right audience on these social media channels. And that's where we, do our magic, is kind of the targeting, the optimization, and the know-how of doing that. Because the negative about advertising on social media is it's very easy to spend money and it's very easy to waste money if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. So, Facebook asks you to boost every post if you're a business page, right? So, hey, I'll throw $30 at this one. I'll throw $30 at that one. Before you know it, you've spent $3,000 and you don't know what the heck you're doing, right? So it's important to find a viable partner to help you optimize that advertising, but you have to understand that it's pay to play, right? And you have to put a budget forward.
Yeah, if you do it wrong, it's like shopping on Amazon. You think you bought 2 things, and you look at your credit card, and it just all it is pages of Amazon.
Yeah,
it's usually the opposite with me. I thought I bought a dozen of something. I only got 2 things. Yeah. So, Brian, one question I have for you is, you mentioned something about optimization, and obviously you got you talked about KPI, key performance indicator, but then there's something called SEO and all these other things. So I'm an attorney. We're a dime a dozen, right? Accountants, doctors, SEO specialists, digital marketers. How do you stand out in a crowded field? Why do somebody, or rather, how do they find someone that really knows their stuff?
Yeah, that's an uphill battle for us in almost every conversation we have, because there's a lot of people that feel they can run a digital agency, right? The new thing now in our space is these gurus who tell you how to create an agency and how to outsource 100% of your work. And you're like, oh, well, all I got to do is get the client, mark up the service, and I make money. That sounds great. Yeah, but you're going to keep clients for 30 days. They're going to realize you're a fraud and they're going to leave. So many of the clients that come to us that aren't in the startup space are coming to us as their second, third, fourth, fifth agency that they've tried. And I think our differentiator is, we have 7 guys on staff here. Everybody's got an MBA. We approach this from an ROI perspective, not a, hey, we post pretty pictures and get likes. Like, we try to understand your company, right? We have guys that invest in their own businesses that are working with us. So we understand your business, how you really make money, how you need to make money, and then we execute a strategy. So, the differentiator is really, we've been doing this for 12 years, right? A lot of these guys just popped up last week. We try to understand your business, and we're 100% honest and upfront about everything. And, we don't guarantee anything, but we'll take a look at somebody's account and say, hey, based on what you're doing right now, we feel we can improve this. And I'm not going to tell you we can improve it 10x, 2x, 7x, whatever, but I think we can improve it. And, we try to form more of a partnership. So the differentiator is we have clients that have stuck around with us for 12 years, and I think that's pretty cool. And I think that kind of tells you what you need to know about, what we do.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the keys to marketing is getting people in the door. And in this case, in a world of not only freestanding buildings and retail, but e-commerce, which is going to just explode even more than we've ever seen it over the next decade. How do we grab people's attention and get them into the door of our website, our products, our funnels, et cetera? And so my question is, as you talk about ROI, I think it's very difficult for people to, understand what that ROI is just because of the medium, even when someone like you can explain it in layman's terms. So that being said, what is, and it can be a range, and maybe you can't answer this, but what is a cost per lead as people, because I think business people think a lot of times in quantitative and specific and measurables. And so how much does it cost to actually get a lead on social?
Yeah. So we have e-commerce ads that convert for, $1 per sale. And we have leads that we're getting for $1,200, $1,500. But the businesses are totally different, right? So the cost per lead is based on what is the service that you're offering or the product that you're offering, and what's the price, and on the e-commerce side, a lot of what we see is people not understanding the numbers of their own products, right? And realizing, hey, it takes money to make money. And if we spend something, you have to have a margin here in your product, or these ads could work and you still might not make enough money to sustain. So a lot of people need to understand what that true margin is. And then on the B2B side, we work with a company now who's looking for investments in a real estate play. And we're getting leads for them for $300-$400 a piece. But one of those leads could result in $100,000 plus investment. Right. So if I told you selling a widget, yeah, we'll sell them for $300, you'd think I'm nuts, but for these guys, they think we're heroes. And it's the value of what we spend. So if we do our job right, it comes down to a math problem. For every dollar we spend, how much do we make? And that's what I wanted.
Yeah. I work with a lot of my clients on what is a client worth, and then what's the lifetime value of a client. So that's what I wanted to just kind of justify that with you.
And on top of that, that's also how we determine our budgeting, right? So depending on the price of your item or the price of your service, right? If you're like these the real estate investment trust, if they said, hey, we have a couple $100 to spend, that's not going to work. You're looking for $100,000. But if you're selling a $999, watch strap or something, then we don't have to spend $700,000 to try to get a customer.
Yeah.
We should build it off the price of what you're offering.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes, the investment in these businesses, especially as an entrepreneur, is not actual tangible dollars, but also your own investment or output And I see great value, especially the way I launched my career, in giving away free content. As a lawyer, a specialist in estate planning and asset protection, I put out a blog every single month, and I post it on LinkedIn, and I'm driving a ton of traffic just from that minimum investment of providing something I do every day. And I think LinkedIn does a great job now. I don't know when it started, but it says, here's how much of an investment you would have in reading it, a 3 or 4 minute read, which I think is brilliant. So somebody sees that, that's an investment in themselves. But giving away something free actually has tangible results.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an awesome model. And, we stepped back about a year ago and said, the plumber's house has leaky pipes, right? Like, we do a great job for our clients, but we suck at marketing ourselves, and we have to put more effort into that. So just like you said, I started something personally called the 90-second blog, 90-second blog. And that's all it is. It's something that takes you 90 seconds to read. And I post it on LinkedIn. It's usually less than 90 seconds to read. I write them up on like Sunday night, put it out there. I haven't done it recently, but I should. And every time I put one of those things out, we get business from it every single time. And even if it's not business, it's a conversation that's going to lead to something down the line. So you're 100% right. That organic stuff is so important. But the hardest thing about organic is it just takes effort. And people get tied up in, life gets in the way, business gets in the way. So if you can make the time, it's a beautiful thing.
But I think it's a function of priority. And I truly, you have 24 hours in a day, and anybody and everybody can make the time if it becomes a priority. If your business is a priority, all you need to do, you talked about a 90-second blog, takes you maybe a half hour.
Yeah.
I write my blog in less than an hour, but I do it every single month. Because you have to be, especially as an entrepreneur, a self-starter, and you must have that discipline.
Right.
You've got to do it no matter what.
Yeah.
And if you do, you're going to find success. Period.
Yeah. And a lot of people will ask us too, like, how do you, I don't know what to post, or I don't have a lot of pictures of my product or whatever. Like, you could turn one blog into 75 different one-line posts and then just plan it out in a calendar for the month. And you have 1 month of content there from one blog, so if you really put a little effort into it, that the content is there. And we do that for clients, but I usually tell people, don't pay us to do that. That's a waste of money. You can do this on your own rather than showing out whatever it costs to take us to post 3 times a week on your Facebook page. Like, just do it,
I'll tell you what draws me as a consumer is, authentic posts. When it's a canned post. When a third party wrote it. I don't like those. In fact, I hate those. To me, there's something disingenuous about it.
Yeah.
If you're going to hold yourself out as a subject matter expert, then it better be as if you are delivering it to me one-on-one. And that's what I like to see. And there's a lot of goodwill in that. And I think, you don't have to be the strongest writer, but if it comes off as being the true, authentic you, there's a lot of salability in that. And I think it's going to drive a lot of business to whomever it is that's generating it. But you have to make that investment in yourself first.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would agree. I think I see one of the big, as a coach, I see one of the biggest issues is people's consistency. I can't tell you how many clients I work with 15 minutes a week just to keep them consistent and on pace. And that is, that I think that's one of the biggest things missing because it's just hard. But moving on to, we're talking a little bit about social. I want to talk and leave some room to talk a little bit about mergers and acquisitions, right?
Yeah.
So you are also the director of mergers and acquisitions at Global Source Infrastructure Partners, the family office of Mark Courtney.
Yep.
And so when a company is in growth mode and a company today is thinking about growing, right? It's either grow organically or grow through acquisition. What are the pros and cons of that? Because I would think that someone's going to be looking at the landscape over the next couple of years and say, you know what, I can buy this company, I can expand. But then there's, growing through acquisition and then all the culture issues that you have. And then there's growing organically, which is just a slower growth. So, we talk a little bit to that if you could.
Yeah. So when I first got into the M&A side of things, it was after we exited the first business. I partnered with a guy named Mike O'Hare. He came out of Lehman Brothers, worked on on the M&A side, on the trading side, had a really great background, and we kind of consulted private companies that were either raising capital or selling their business. So it was from the side of we have to market your business that you want to sell or you want to get an injection of capital for, and the biggest hurdle was not like getting interest in the person's business for other people to acquire it. It was working out the terms of what's life going to be like after I hand over the reins of my business, right? So yeah, the financial gain of selling a company is obvious, right? But the lifestyle afterwards, that could work in your favor or it could be the worst decision you ever made. And it's important, going back to the partnership thing, to find that right partner. So aside from that, growing organically is great, but usually every company reaches a point where they need funds to get it to the next level, right? Where you have the systems in place, you have the team in place, but you know what? If we sunk 100K into marketing, we could really grow this thing. So with that comes, how do we find that money? And that usually comes with, an injection of capital. And that means you're not in charge anymore, or you are, but you also have to answer to somebody else, right? So the one thing is, when people make investments, you're going to have to, you're going to have to deal with them. And that's something people don't realize. They think they just get a check and all of a sudden life's great, and you see it on Shark Tank, right? I want 50 grand for 10% of my company. You haven't sold anything. You're not worth anything, so, and then you got to answer to partners. And then growing through acquisition, it's important to do true due diligence on the business. Because most of the time on the private side, on the public side, that's a whole different animal. But on the private side, we've had deals where we look at the books and the wife's Mercedes is on the books and the kid's Mercedes is on the books and the flight to Aruba and all this stuff. And you're like, wait a minute, when we pull all this out, your company's not worth, 10X, it's worth 3X, right? And trying to really do your homework on growing through acquisition. And I think it's something we've been focusing on as entrepreneurs. Is the growth sometimes isn't worth it, right? Because the incremental gain for exponential growth might not always work out. And if I go out and acquire a company and we shell out $5 million and we inherit, 15 employees, for us personally to make this much more money to take on that debt and that responsibility, sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes you're better off staying small, so to speak, and figuring out how to optimize your own business, whether that's through adding new services and products or, a different, going into a different vertical or a different specialty, a different area. So there's positive and negatives to both, but it's really about doing your homework and understanding that there's consequences, both, financial positive, financial negative, and personnel positive and negative.
Yeah, and I believe, COVID has really changed the landscape on the M&A side. I do a fair amount of that work. And one thing I know is pre-COVID, valuations were here. Post-COVID, they've effectively significantly less, but doesn't mean that the value of the business is going down. It's just the perception of that hypothetical willing buyer and seller. So I call it, we're all familiar with the term EBITDA, but now it's EBITDAC. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, and COVID. So, that valuation dichotomy is causing, a real sort of standstill on the M&A side. But now I'm starting to see a resurrection of sorts, and they're coming back, but they're trying to negotiate post-COVID pricing. So what are you seeing in your space based on, sort of the deals you're looking at today? That precipitates everything.
Yeah, valuations are definitely down overall, but it's something we kind of go through with everybody. Is like, you're only worth what somebody's willing to pay for you. So just because you're a software company doesn't mean you're going to get a 10x valuation. Just because you're a staffing company doesn't mean you're going to sell for 3 times EBITDA. And all in between. So it's really finding the right partner and you accepting the value for it. And on our side at Global Source now, when we mostly invest in consumer goods, right? So inventors, other people that come up with products will come to us and say, hey, I have a new computer mouse or whatever. Will you guys invest in it? And it's about what we're willing to put in. We kind of set the value of it, and you can tell me what your valuation is, but it's really the perception of the investor, and overall, I think valuations are down, but M&A is still happening. Like, people are still, making deals, mergers. We're seeing a lot of joint ventures in certain spaces lately. But in the consumer goods space, we either license it, we buy it outright, we buy your patent, or we say, hey, it's not for us. Best of luck. And there's a lot of nuances to those deals, but it's also more about now what we can do with the item as far as selling it than it is acquiring a tech company and trying to operate it. So I'm in a little bit of a different M&A space now on the product side than the B2B service side that we were in prior.
Yeah, I love it. Brian, this has been great. I've loved talking about social mergers, acquisitions, advertising, all, some really key things for business people to think about and really get into the right mindset as they begin to think about it, especially during, as we all kind of walk through COVID together.
Yeah.
We're going to do a quick speed round. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Favorite business book and why?
The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Oh, you know what? I recently read that book.
Yeah.
And it's been a favorite on when I asked that question lately. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty black and white, and I think it's literally the most applicable book that you can get. It cuts through all the nonsense and the grandiose ideas, and it's like, hey, here's a scenario we had. Here's how we handled it. You figure out how you want to handle it. Here's my advice. And I think there's a lot to that.
Yeah.
Your favorite baseball player and who most resembles you in the sense of, sort of characteristics?
Oh God, I don't think I can't even be put in that category. I was a huge Wade Boggs fan until I got fat, and then I turned into a catcher. So, that Wade Boggs, Don Mattingly growing up, those are my guys.
I love it. The number one thing that people need to do to have the right mindset to finish 2020.
Stick it out, man. Stick it out. Trust yourself. I think the hardest thing is just believing in yourself and willing to bet on yourself. And that's, it's a hard road and there's a lot of ups and downs, but bet on yourself and something will happen.
Amen. I agree with that.
Tell everybody who your ideal clients are and how they can get a hold of you, Brian.
Yeah, sure. So for Posted Social, we kind of operate in two verticals. The e-com space, where you're selling a product that you're looking to increase your sales through Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it is, social media advertising, Google Ads, etc. Or on the B2B side, we tend to work with clients that have a longer sales process, software businesses, investment companies, lawyers, people that have higher ticket items. So B2B leads or e-commerce sales, and you can get me at brian@postedsocial.com. And then for Global Source, we invest directly, license or buy products for us to take them to market ourselves. So inventors, companies that have their own items, if you're looking to sell an idea, a patent, license something, come to us. You can get me at brian@postedsocial.com. Same thing. We'll take it through there.
All right, man. Hey, Brian, I can't thank you enough. This was great. I appreciate your I spelled it wrong initially. Yeah, my apologies. I appreciate your thoughts on mergers, acquisitions, advertising, and just the mindset for every step along the way. This has been great. Randy, I'll let you take it home.
Yeah, Brian, although your name is Brian, you're a jack of many trades and a master of more than a few. So, very impressive. Very impressive. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
This is great. Thanks, Brian and Randy. Always fun co-hosting with you. Thanks, man. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Brian, thanks, man. If anybody needs Brian, check out postedsocial.com or reach him on LinkedIn and connect. Thanks, Brian. Randy. And if anybody needs an estate attorney / for anything, call Randy.
I can make a great referral to you for someone that I know that's really good.
Yeah. All right. Take it easy, everybody. Talk to you.